Indeed, we are talking with 13 minutes to the top of the hour. Your news also coming up with, of course, Zwelibanzi Mazibugo this time. And the conversation does continue right here on the program. This time looking at the ripple effects of a bird flu outbreak in Brazil. I mean, this is being felt across oceans and right here in South Africa as well, with Brazil being one of the country's largest suppliers of poultry, offal, and mechanically deboned meat. The disruption has raised red flags for food security, pricing issues as well, and jobs in the processed meat sector. Joining us now to unpack the scale of this challenge and what lies ahead is Nhlanhla Mutibi, who's the CEO of the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters. Nhlanhla, good to have you on the program this evening.
Thank you for having us, and good evening to the listeners.
Let's start with the basics. What exactly is the nature and scale of the current avian flu in Brazil?
Maybe just to give context, globally, avian influenza is a reality. So it's not only in Brazil. Brazil has been the only country for a while now that was not affected. We always called it the last man standing, and we are here now because there is an outbreak in Brazil.
Yeah. Why is it causing Right? My apologies.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, Brazil is a leader in global exports of poultry products. And obviously, everyone is now looking towards what's happening in Brazil because it affects almost every country.
Brazil is a key supplier. I mentioned offal and mechanically deboned meat to South Africa. Can you walk us through how dependent our food industry is on these imports?
The information that we have from the local poultry producers is they produce 21.5 million birds per week. So you multiply that by 4 to get the monthly production. On a monthly basis, South Africa imports 18,000 metric tons of mechanically deboned meat and 4,000 metric tons of chicken feet, 467 tons of chicken livers, and 1,500 tons of chicken gizzards. We have seen an uptick in imports of offal, which is the 3 products I've just mentioned, since the introduction of the duty that was implemented about 3 years ago on poultry imports into South Africa, because normal consumers, basic consumers, do not have the resources to now play in the space of bone-in chicken. Our counterparts in the production sector have indicated that they will up production during this period. They have indicated that they will put in additional chicken of 1 million birds per week, which translates into 4 million birds per month. If you look at chicken feet alone, the 4,000 tons that I spoke to, what comes out of Brazil creates a 3,700 tons shortfall per month. And that equates to about 54 million birds per month. So if we're talking about 4 million birds versus 54 million birds in order to create the volume that is required for chicken feed and other offal by the local consumers, we can clearly see that there will be a shortage, and a huge shortage for that matter. And we all know that translates into price increases.
I guess that then begs the question as to what makes it so difficult, especially for local producers, to step in and fill that gap in the short term.
I guess it's from production. When you produce chickens, you need to have the eggs, the 1-day chicks. It's a process to get to an 8-week chicken that you and I know of. So that takes about a month or so, or even more, to get the actual 1 day into the stables for it to grow to the 8 weeks, because they will probably also not have sufficient volumes of eggs to fill that gap so quickly. But I think what is critical for what we are talking about today is the impact of that in terms of what does it mean to the local consumer. Right. As I indicated, there's issues of price increases, but there is also an issue of shortage of food on the table of the ordinary consumers. When we look at the chicken feet that we spoke about, maybe let me even not go there. Let's focus on MDM. because South Africa does not and will never produce MDM on a commercial scale.
So for those unfamiliar with it, let's just explain it very quickly. That's deboned meat, mechanically deboned meat.
After you debone a chicken, there's a little bit that is left on the bones, etc. So they take all of that out, and it is processed into a product that is used by the meat processors, companies such as Escort, and many other smaller producers of the sausages, the Viennas, the Polonies that we all eat. Is about 40% of that is MDM, the mechanically deboned product. So if we're not going to get the supply of the 92% that we get from Brazil, we're not going to get the supply of the chicken feet, the livers, and the gizzards that we import from Brazil. We're looking at a situation of about 400 million meals per month that are being removed from the consumers' tables, those that are in that bracket of the products that I have mentioned.
We are speaking about the ripple effects of a bird flu outbreak in Brazil being felt across the world, really, and also right here in South Africa. We are joined this evening by Nhlanhla Mutibi, who's the CEO at the Association of Meat Importers and Exporters, to help make sense of this situation as well. Nhlanhla, there's been a lot of talk of increasing local bird production, but beyond the consumer impact, what are the possible knock-on effects, especially on jobs, particularly in the manufacturing and small-scale meat processing business here?
Yes, there is the value chain from when we import products into South Africa starts with the importers, the traders themselves. Some of our traders are solely importers of MDM, the mechanically deboned meat.
Yeah.
So if there's no product coming in the next few weeks, they probably have stopped now maybe for about 3-4 weeks. But thereafter, if nothing flows through, then obviously it means they have no options but to close until, and if they're able to resuscitate after that. But also we're looking at the downstream manufacturers. There are products that are being added value to, and with MDM, as I indicated, that the big companies that produce polonies that we know of, they import mechanically deboned products from Brazil. And they obviously have fully functioning lines within their factories that produce the product. And there will be impact if there's nothing to produce. And also, when you're talking about the meat processors, they've indicated to us, we're talking about 125,000 jobs that are at stake.
So given the health concerns around this avian influenza, how's the industry then balancing the urgent need for affordable protein with the public health safety here?
There is a concept that is called regionalization. Sorry for that. It means that when there is an outbreak, you demarcate the affected area, and then the rest of the country, which is not affected, can continue to trade. That is a concept that is approved by the World Organization of Animal Health. Many countries are participating in that process. And many other countries that had not been participating until now have, in the last week and this week, jumped onto the bandwagon in terms of ensuring that they regionalize it quickly with Brazil so that the product from the unaffected states can still come in. As you may be aware, Brazil is a very big country. A typical example will be we have an outbreak in Stellenbosch in Western Cape, and then the whole of South Africa is closed. That's a typical simple narration of what we are. Sure. So we are saying instead of closing the whole country, can we confine the problem to Western Cape and then do an agreement on regionalization, which will enable the unaffected areas to send product. If and when the disease spreads, it's within the rights of the countries that have those agreements to close. The more they spread, the more they close.
Sure. Are there any alternative international suppliers South Africa could turn to if the situation with Brazil, for instance, worsens, or is Brazil's role too dominant in this specific market?
It is dominant. That we cannot run away from. And as I indicated, many countries, especially in Europe, dip in and out of the avian influenza. The US, same, in and out of the influenza. So countries may open for 6 months and close for 5 months. So as and when the disease outbreak is declared, everyone trading with that country will close depending on the type of agreements that they have. So closing is not an option, it is a must.
Yeah.
But what we are arguing about is, let us not close the whole country when the practice is we close the affected areas.
But how are
And
retail?
South Africa has been in engagements with Brazil over almost 2 years now on this concept. Various discussions have been going on. We are just worried that the finalization of regionalization, which government had indicated that they are working on it, it's not forthcoming. We are here now, and
Yeah.
what do we need to do to make sure that we curb the potential impact of what is going on?
How are retailers and consumers reacting to these supply issues?
Very worried. Very worried. We actually had an industry meeting this morning. Very worried. And I think this morning I've seen an article from Escort about the same issues, raising concerns.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is a big issue because your big retailers, the Spars, the Pick and Pays, obviously we have seen that of late they have shifted in terms of their product range around the very same processed meats that we're talking about. Their fridges are full because that's where the demand is. But now they are worried in the short term they may have nothing to sell in that space.
I'll tell you who else is worried. That's our consumers as well. To wrap up,
Exactly.
what key message would you want to give to our listeners about the poultry supply challenge and what they can expect in the coming months, really? Let's be practical about it.
I think if we're not over the finalization of the regionalization in the next 4 weeks, 6 weeks max, consumer will start feeling the impact of product not being available. We have seen in this past week, the price of mechanically deboned meat has increased from 13 rand to 31. So we can imagine when we get to a point of where there is no product or very limited from another country that may come with limited stock.
Sure.
So to the consumer, I think we need to brace ourselves for increased prices.
Let me thank you for your time, Imameleng Mutibi, shedding light on the fragile links in our food supply chain, but also speaking to the ripple effects that the avian flu outbreak in Brazil could have on South Africa's economy and food security. This situation does remind us how interconnected our world is and how crucial it is to balance immediate needs with long-term safety and sustainability as well. As consumers and stakeholders, the choices we make today will indeed shape the resilience of our food systems tomorrow.